This is Professor Stephen Litch in the Principles of Economics, and I'm going to be talking about demand and supply and market equilibrium. Okay, let me start this slideshow. I'm going to discuss a market, and there are two sides to each market, the buyers and the sellers. Okay, the buyers are called the demand for the product, and the sellers are the suppliers. Okay, so I'm going to start here with a little example. Table on the left is trying to present a small community with 6 people: Ann, Bob, Chris, Dan, Ed, and Frank. And each of them has a different value that they would place on eating a pizza for dinner tonight. Frank, for example, is super hungry. Frank loves pizza, and he considers a pizza worth $6 to him. Anne is not such a fan of pizza, so she's not willing to pay as much. It's not as valuable to her. Okay, so all these people have different values associated with pizza, and that's going to generate the demand for the pizza at different prices. Okay, so let me now define an important term. The quantity demanded of a good at a price is the amount of that good that consumers would be willing and able to purchase at that price. Okay, quantity demanded, it depends on the price. So looking at these people with their preferences on the left, that will generate the demand on the right. So this table shows at each price the quantity demanded. Now, if pizza costs $1 a piece, then all 6 of these people would be willing to purchase pizza. Okay, but if the price were $2, Anne would decide that pizza's not worthwhile for her. So only 5 slices of pizza would be purchased at $2. Okay, as the price keeps going up, the quantity of pizza demanded decreases. Okay, so this table right here can be called a demand schedule, but the name is not super important, but it's listing for each price the quantity demanded of the good. Now, an important thing is the graph we get from this demand schedule. Many of our models of markets we will analyze graphically, and they will have a demand curve and a supply curve. Okay, here is the demand curve that would be generated by these people with their preferences. It's a graph of the quantity demanded at each price. So for example, at a price of $6, 1 slice of pizza would be purchased. The consumers would be willing to purchase 1 slice of pizza. At a price of $3, we go across, and this demand curve tells us that 4 people would be willing to purchase pizza at a price of $3. So this is a curve that relates price and the quantity that would be demanded at that price. It's called a demand curve. Sometimes it might be a straight line, but we still call it a curve. There is one important rule for demand curves. They slope down. And this is known as the law of demand. The law of demand states that everything else is the same. As price increases, quantity demanded decreases. As the price goes up, people are willing to purchase less of the good. Okay, so I've presented the demand side of the market and tried to explain how it can be generated from just consumers have different preferences for pizza, and that'll generate a downward sloping demand curve. There are other reasons why we'd expect the demand curve to slope downward, but I think that's a good explanation. The other side of the market is the supply side. Those are the producers. So I'm going to talk about this as if I'm running a pizza shop, and the cost of producing a slice of pizza keeps changing for me. I can produce 1 slice at low cost, But the second slice will cost more than that to produce. And the third slice will cost yet more. So cost of producing the first slice of pizza is $1.50. But if I want to produce a second slice, that second slice will cost $2. The third slice would cost $2.50. So why are the costs increasing? There are a variety of reasons. Maybe I have to start paying my workers overtime. I need to start hiring managers to supervise multiple workers, or I need to buy more equipment for my business. There are many reasons why costs will tend to increase as the amount of production increases. Okay? If that's true, it means that the quantity I would be willing to sell, let me restate that. If my prices are always increasing, then I would be willing to sell a small quantity at a low price. But I wouldn't be able to profitably sell a large amount at a low price. The price would need to increase in order for me to be willing to sell more. And that's essentially what happens on the supply side of the market. Let me define another important term: quantity supplied. The quantity supplied of a good at a particular price is the amount that firms would be willing and able to sell at that price. Okay, the definition is just like quantity demanded. But remember, this is the relationship between price and the amount that the producer would want to sell. So given my costs in this example, if pizza were selling for $2 a slice, I could produce the first slice for $1.50, so I'd be willing to do that, and I'd make a little money off of it. And I'd be willing to produce a second slice. That second slice of pizza costs $2, and I can sell it for $2, so I'd be willing to do that. But I would not be willing to sell a third slice. Producing a third slice would cost $2.50, and if I can sell it for only $2, I would not be willing to do that. So at a price of $2, I'd be willing to supply 2 slices of pizza and no more. Okay, so that generates this supply schedule, or the table that lists price and quantity supplied. Now, the very important thing is when we graph this table, we get a supply curve. Okay, the supply curve is the graph of the quantity supplied at each different price. So I've taken that table and I've simply graphed it. At a price of $1.50, 1 slice would be supplied. So at a price of $1.50, 1 slice would be supplied. At a price of $2, 2 slices would be supplied. So $2, 2 pieces would be supplied, and so forth. Okay, this supply curve is super important in our graphs. Supply curve will always slope upward, and what we call the law of supply is that as the price of a good increases, sellers are willing to sell more, or as the price increases, quantity supplied increases. Okay, so now I want to talk about the two sides of the market and put them together. Here's the demand. On the other side, supply. When we put them together, we have an illustration of both parts of the market. And at this point, I want to talk about an equilibrium in the market. An equilibrium is kind of what we predict would happen in this market if it were given some time to settle down. And an equilibrium will be a price and an amount sold where there's no pressure for the price to go up, price to go down, quantity to go up or down. There's no pressure for anything to change. That is an equilibrium. Okay, so here is a model. It shows the demand side, it shows the supply side. First, I want to give a couple of examples that are not equilibrium in the market. So here, if the price were $4 in the market, the supply curve tells us the number of pizzas that I would be willing to sell, that I'd want to sell at a price of $4. And I would want to sell 4 slices. But the demand curve tells us how much consumers are willing to purchase at that price. And the quantity demanded at a price of $4 is only 3. So this difference is what we might call a surplus or excess supply. Okay? This is not an equilibrium because companies would be making more pizza than people want to purchase. Okay, so again, there'd be an excess supply or a shortage. I apologize, an excess supply or a surplus of the good. Okay, and then that would start to create an incentive for the price to come down. See, at my pizza company, I had produced 6 slices of pizza thinking that I could sell them at $4 a piece. But not as many people wanted to purchase the pizza at such a high price. I could only sell 3. So I've got this unsold inventory, that surplus, and maybe what I think about doing is reducing the price, going up to someone and saying, hey, I know that $4 is supposedly the market price of pizza, but I'd sell you a slice for $3.50. How about it? And so, if I discount the price of my pizza, I could probably find someone who's willing to purchase it. Okay, that unsold supply of pizza gives me as a producer an incentive to reduce my price, discount the price in order to sell my surplus. Okay, so the price of $4 was essentially too high, and there's pressure for prices to come down. The suppliers would try to start cutting their prices to sell their unsold inventory. Let me try another situation that's also non-equilibrium. Suppose the price in the market were $2. Everyone was told that pizza sells for $2 a slice. Okay. The supply curve tells us the quantity that would be supplied at a price of $2, and that's 2 slices. The demand curve tells us the quantity that would be demanded at $2, and that would be 5 slices. Okay, now once again, we've got a mismatch between the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. 5 people want to purchase pizza, but I'm willing to make only 2 slices. So that gap between between the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied can be thought of as a shortage. There's not enough of the good to satisfy everyone's desires. If I want to be more technical, I would call it excess demand. There's more demand for the good than the quantity supplied. Okay, so again, this low price of $2 results in a shortage. And if there's a shortage, then some of the customers who didn't get their pizza might come to me and say, hey, I'd be willing to pay a little bit more if I could have one of those slices instead of so-and-so else getting it. So at a price of $2, 5 people want pizza, there are only 2 slices available. Someone who doesn't get a slice of pizza might offer me a little bit higher price in order to get one of those rare slices of pizza. And so they'd start bidding the price up. Okay? So if there is a shortage of a good, it creates incentive for the price to go up. All right, so I've talked about the 2 situations that are not equilibriums in the market. If the price is too high, there's a surplus of the good, and there's pressure for prices to come down. If the price is too low, there will be a shortage, and there's pressure for the price to come up. There's one outcome that is an equilibrium, and the equilibrium occurs exactly where the supply curve meets the demand curve. Where those two curves intersect is the equilibrium. Tells it, so this green dot right there, that the equilibrium price is $3 and the equilibrium quantity is $4. Okay, an equilibrium price is one where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. That means that everyone who wants a slice of pizza gets one, and every pizza that gets produced gets sold. Okay, if the price were $3, there would be Excuse me. If the price were $3, there would be 4 people who want to purchase pizza. At a slice of $3, my company would be willing to produce 4 slices. So those two things match up, and everyone is happy. All the consumers have their desires fulfilled. The producer is able to sell everything that the good producer wanted to make. So here's our equilibrium. The important things to remember: quantity supplied and quantity demanded. Both of those are what would be produced and what would be consumed at a particular price. The supply curve tells us all the different quantities demanded at all the different prices, and the demand curve says the same thing for the other side of the market. Demand curve tells us at each price what quantity would be demanded. The law of demand says that as prices increase, the quantity demanded goes down. People are willing and able to purchase less of the good as it becomes more expensive. Law of supply says that as the price increases, quantity supplied increases as well. In other words, as the price goes up, producers want to sell more. A market equilibrium occurs where supply and demand intersect, and that price is called the equilibrium price, and the quantity associated with it is the equilibrium quantity. Okay, right here, the equilibrium price is $3. The equilibrium quantity is $4. Okay, so with that, I am done talking about demand and supply.